All right. Lights, camera, action. Today, I'd like to welcome Barry, Cody, and I can't find where the subscriber list is for the channel, but I'll figure it out so that I can welcome you all when you join up to become a member of the Sheepy Hollow YouTube channel. Anyway, today's video, I think I'm going to title it something like No TV, No Mobile. And why is that? Well, about 4.5 years ago, I used to work in United Arab Emirates. And prior to that, I lived in Fredericton. And prior to that, we'll get back to what the idea of why I'm talking about this in particular. So anyway, before I lose you, better start talking to me. Well, long ago, when the mobiles first came out, we used to work in the oil patch. And we wanted to get a mobile phone. We thought that was a pretty good idea at the time, and people needed to get a hold of us, or we were on the road. We could phone ahead and find these different things out. I suppose a lot in the case of the way it is with everybody else today. So anyway, we first phone, it came with a battery that was about the size of a small car battery. And then you could put the phone on top of it. And every time you made a phone call, whether you received one or made one, it cost you friggin' quite a bit of money. Plus, you had to pay quite a bit of money for the service to be able to say you got a mobile phone. And it's kind of uncomfortable. I didn't feel right with the whole thing. The first time we brought it into the city, which would be Edmonton, we were grocery shopping. And the first thing you had to do is you had to go get a cart to carry the phone with you. Anyway, we kept that for a few months, and it just wasn't worth the money, so we got rid of it. Then, make a longer story short, moved to Fredericton, New Brunswick. And I needed a phone, so we went and got one. And it was an ugly little thing. It was about yay big, about that thick. So it was pretty thick as far as a phone goes, nowadays anyway. And I don't think it could do anything besides talk like a regular phone. Anyway, long story short on that, it was a waste of money. And the battery died on it. And you had to go get another battery. Then the next thing you know is the model is it's too old, sir. We can't get you. You have to get a new phone. So I thought, oh, to hell with that. Then I got a job in the Middle East. And when I arrived there in Abu Dhabi, everybody had mobile phones. Even the poor people had mobile phones. And what worked out or the way it worked out is that if you didn't have a phone number tied in with government services, you couldn't get anything done. Or you'd go and talk to the different shopkeepers and stuff like that, and he'd say, oh yeah, boss, we'll phone you in a week, phone you in 2 weeks, phone you in 3 weeks. They never phoned. But anyway, you still had a phone. And one of my first phones over there, I think it was called an iMate. And it was a PDA. And it was about, it's a good size. And it was reasonably thick. And you had a little pen that you pulled out and you could scribe on it and write things and that. Mostly I played games on it because I never got a lot of phone calls there either. But the battery wouldn't last very long, a couple of hours at the most. So you're always walking around, you always had a charging cable in your pocket and stuff like that. Then they sold another battery that would bolt onto the back of it, and that just pretty well doubled your life for a lot longer than that. So you could go probably to an 8-hour day job, and by the time you got home, you wouldn't have no charge left on it. But then I was on the computer then, and away you go. Well, I got married over there, and my wife, I needed her to have a phone, so we went and picked out a phone, and she picked up one of these Sony Ericssons with a flip on it. And what a hunk of crap that was too. And what I found out is that we had all these different cords all the time for different phones. And there was no standardization. And it kind of irritated me because the cords didn't last very long. You know, maybe up to a year, we'll say, on some of the phones, and like shorter than that after that. Plus, they had all, I believe it's called proprietary cords for them. So you just couldn't use a USB micro or anything like that to charge it up. So, of course, I'm not much for, I'm going to fix the cord later. So you end up getting those cords mixed in with other cords, and pretty soon you got a whole pile of cords, and you don't know which ones work or not. And sometimes they would work, so you would keep it. And then next thing you know is the cord's not working, and you throw it back in there thinking you're going to fix it again. Well, anyway, I ended up with another phone that I still have today. Oh, no. Yeah, I still have it. I bought an iPhone 4. The Etisalat, the company that's at the time was the only telephone company in the country, gave you a deal. If you paid so much money per month for so long, you got to keep the phone. And I thought, oh, okay, that's not a bad idea. And I went and got the SIM card for it, and off we went. Great little phone, except it was too small. In my big pockets, it just didn't feel right, and the screen was so small that you're always zooming in on it, but it worked pretty good, actually. But I wanted another one. And now I ended up with a what's called a Samsung Note 3. And that's nice and big, got a nice screen on it. And it uses an oddball cable, uses a USB 3 cable. And I've had nothing but trouble with USB 3. I was so eager to get USB 3 that I bought 3 4-terabyte hard drives to download, things like movies, music, and stuff like that. I thought maybe when I retire, which was coming, and someday I thought that I'd be able to have all the movies and don't have to worry about things. Also, a few years back, so this would be in 2010-ish or so, my wife started complaining about the television. We had two 40-inch TVs. I can't remember the brands. One, good brands. Sony, I think, was one, and I can't remember the other one. And, they're a nice big TV, and I thought, oh yeah, well, we'll keep my wife happy and my son happy, and we can play on the son's TV. We can play with his, I think it was like a PlayStation 3 or something like that. And we didn't play on that TV too much, my son, and I don't think we watched much in the way of television either on it, because we had two of them both hooked up. And that was on a satellite dish, and I think it was called Arabsat. But everything had Arabic subtitles on it, which annoyed me to hell. And the other thing is that you could only watch Discovery Channel over and over so many times before it kind of wears thin, we'll say. And this is when I first started getting a peeve against these cable companies. And it ties into the phone in a bit. I'll explain that too. So anyway, I talked to my wife and I says, look, let's hook up your laptop to the TV and you can watch, at the time, was Netflix USA. And it was great. She loved it. And she had a little Logitech keyboard that was not very big with a little swirly pad on it. And she could type on it. But she seen the limitations of that as well. So, back to the phones. Well, in a second again, I guess. So anyway, what we ended up doing was canceling the service for the TV cable. They would phone us, or they would first they would start off like, oh, I'd have to do a rough number in my head. It was like $1,000 a year. And I paid for it in a year, so you didn't have that hassle, and it was a bill you didn't have to worry about. And I'd have it in my computer, a warning that, hey, cable's coming up, watch for the bill, pay the thing off in a year, and we'll get happy days, right? So you don't try to minimize the amount of bills that you get all the time. So, as I was saying, that we got tired of that, and every time you'd have to phone up the cable company and say, how come you raised it up? And they wouldn't raise it up like $50 or $10 a month. They were raising it up like $100 a month. So now we're getting into, I don't know, maybe $1,800 a year, I think it was. I can't remember exactly. And what they did is they take all the popular TV shows, or some of the better ones, and they would put them on to another package. So what you end up with is if you'd like to watch the Discovery Channel, you couldn't watch it no more. And anything to do with sports was on another channel. So you never got to watch hardly any TV at all. Except for the stuff that kept repeating itself. So I just said to hell with it. Then they said, oh, but sir, you've been a long-time customer. You've been a customer for 5 years. We'll give you 10 years or whatever it was. We'll give you a big discount. And I thought, you thieving buggers. And it was then I just said, no, I don't want your service anymore. Cancel it. And I canceled for the other TV as well, which piggybacked off the same cable, of which I had to pay more for. So anyway, now we got no TV. And all we got is mobiles. You couldn't get anything done without a mobile there. Driver's license. The guy at the counter say, what's your mobile number? As soon as you put the mobile number in there, he pulled up your information for whether you had tickets, any outstanding tickets, where you lived, what's your Emirates ID. ID is like a credit card kind of thing with a chip in it that they forced us all to get so they could try to track all the people in the country. Now, this country has 1 million locals, which are called Emiratis, and they have about 10 million, mostly Filipinos and East Indians, plus a bunch of Westerners, more or less Westerners, helping to run their country for them. Mostly their education, the oil and gas industry, and most of the construction industry comes from architects and whatnot, and major builders from outside of the country because they just don't have it. It's not a lot of Emiratis doing work like that over there. Not one Emirati I have ever seen drive a taxi car over there, but in Oman I heard they do. Oh well, cheers for them. Anyway, so this mobile phone, you pay quite a bit of money for it. Like this Note 3, I bought it with all the phones over there pretty well bought or unlocked because people come in and out of the country steady. But what we ended up with is if your phone SIM card broke, you had to go and buy another one. I don't get it, but that's just the way it was. So you get the mobile, and one of the things me and my wife said, when we get back to Canada, we're not going to have a mobile either. And to this day, we still don't. I still use my Note 3. I think I'm on my 4th battery on it. Battery lasts a couple of years before it starts swelling up and warping, and then next thing you know is it's not going to work in the phone. And I use the Note 3 as a Wi-Fi device when I go to the city. If I go to things like Dairy Queen or McDonald's, probably Canadian Tire, to name a few places, I can hook up to the Wi-Fi, and if I want to, I can use Facebook to have a phone call back to my family or my friends just to let them know where I'm at or whatever. If I need extra groceries for this, my wife can get a hold of me. I really have no real desire to get a mobile. And we don't even have cable TV here. I spend, or we spend, all our time on the internet through a company called Xplornet, and it's not very good. Xplornet, right now, since last November, I started keeping track of the ping, the megabits per second, and I'm only get my packages now unlimited. It was $103 a month with the phone for unlimited phone calls within New Brunswick. Anyway, the service since last November has just gone downhill really bad. If I don't watch Netflix before 8 o'clock and maybe after 11 o'clock at night, it just sits there and it just swirls. And I hate it. I can't handle it. Facebook doesn't load. Having problems with emails loading to get the images back into it. So I phoned them up a couple of weeks ago and they said, hey, look, can't have this. You guys are charging me too much money. I'm thinking about going to another company. And they said, sir, I'm allowed to drop it $20. And I thought, you cheap bugger. I says, you're not even giving me 10% of what I'm paying for. And we don't really have a lot of options here where I live, out in the middle of nowhere. So he says, well, look, I'll talk to my supervisor, hang on. So he must have sat there and picked his nose for a couple of minutes and then come back on. He says, my supervisor agreed to knock your bill down by $30. And I said, okay, great, thanks. I'll keep it in mind, but I'm still not very happy because I'm still paying less $30. So I'm still paying $70 a month for something I'm only getting 10% of what I'm paying for. So that still irritated me. And then I decided to check it here the other day to make sure that the guy did drop it. And they actually dropped it $40 a month. So now I'm paying about $58 a month for this thing. So maybe those $45, whatever. And it's still crap. And with this virus going around and all these people that are home and stranded in their houses or isolating or whatever you want to call it, the load on the internet is so high that I think their company is only focusing on getting new customers. And if they lose a few along the way, like me, so what? Now, somebody was telling me there's some kind of a stick that I can buy, a USB Wi-Fi, from something like Bell or Rogers, which are the big companies, that I could plug into my computer. Costs $200 a month. And I'm thinking, holy frig, you guys are a bunch of crooks. And I asked my friends what they pay. They're all paying well over $100 a month for cable TV. So there's $300 or more that people are shelling out for what? Not much. Not the way I see it. I think that the Wi-Fi should be expanded through. Fredericton is not too bad. They have some free Wi-Fi, but it's kind of sketchy. It doesn't work all that good. But I think overall, Canada, to start with, should have free Wi-Fi everywhere. The whole country should be freaking wired up. Then you hear things about the 5G thing, and I'm not really sure what's going on there. But the Americans sure don't want it. We got somebody in Vancouver on house arrest, some Chinese person, and the whole thing is, anyway, doesn't matter. I don't want to get into that. But right now, I just thought I would chit-chat about that to let you think about why not start calling up these your cable company and your phone companies and just start threatening to disconnect. So you charge too much. And what gets me is that you get a guy that owns like Rogers cable company or whatever they're called. This guy must have 1,000 vacation homes with the money that you people are paying him. Same thing goes on in the States. They're giants. And it's not right. So you should do something about it. That's my 2 bits worth for my video today. And take care. And we'll see ya soon with something a little bit more interesting, because it's starting to melt out there. And my driveway's pretty well clear. And I should be able to start walking up into the woods and take the dogs for a walk up there. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye. All righty.